A very good afternoon to everyone, depending on wherever you are. A good morning. I am here. I'm my honor and privilege to be here talking to you on this very important summit. I'll be making a presentation on innovations and collaborations to help transform governance and briefly share the insights that we have had in India using technology for solving common governance challenges. So I'll be just sharing my slides and going through the presentation. Yeah. So, innovations and collaborations transforming governance. So, the context is very common. This is something the whole world is facing. We all are, whether it's India or whether it's the United States or whether what began in China, Europe, everyone, we all are presently facing a common problem, a raging pandemic, and which is not subsiding. We have had cases across the world, deaths across the world, and scientists across the world are collaborating and working hard to build a vaccine that can help mitigate this crisis. In this context, when we have faced with such a challenge, I would like to mention about like how do we handle such challenges which are very big, which are very complex, which impact people from across the world, across the ecosystem. What we have observed and what we have found was that whether it's this pandemic or whether the other crises that we have faced, that every such challenge requires innovation, it requires collaboration, it requires working with multiple stakeholders from across the world, especially in this pandemic. And every country was facing this problem and is facing the problem. How do we work together? How do we collaborate? How do we share knowledge? How do we share information? And how do we work with stakeholders across the ecosystem, whether they're from the government, whether they're from academia, whether they're from industry, and ensure that we are able to together solve problems. The challenge becomes like in order to face such challenges, how do we co-create knowledge and expertise from across the world? There might be some solutions which have been tried in maybe Korea, which can have applications in India, or whatever we have done in India may have applications in Africa. So this kind of knowledge sharing becomes a very important part of in our effort to tackle such complex challenges. The way we have been doing, the way we have done in India for across various problems that we have faced, and many other countries have also done it, is that we need to build agile teams which include members from government, from industry, from academia, and together they can come through quickly and work together, because every segment, whether it's somebody from industry or somebody from academia or from the government, they bring in different kind of skill sets which helps in solving problems of scale. And together we are able to build solutions which are innovative, which are robust, and which are scalable, and which will help us to solve the crises that the world is facing today. So when we come to this approach, and when we come to COVID-19 especially, what we found was that is that initially when the let me go back to my previous slide. I think. Yeah, when we're dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, we found that this virus had a typical, very peculiar nature, and it was people who would get infected with this virus will remain asymptomatic for almost 2 weeks, and during this period, there will be a danger of this virus spreading and infecting other people. And since people who have been infected with the virus, they remain asymptomatic. They would not even know that they are unknowingly infecting others. So this made world over, whether it's Singapore, whether it was other countries, India, we found that it's very important to find who are the infected people, who are the people who are likely to be infected, and how do we find them at an early date. And this meant that contact tracing is required. So some contact tracing is done manually, but then technology today allows to do contact tracing at scale in a very robust manner. So the in India we decided to build up a contact tracing app, and that's how the Arogya Setu app, which is the world's largest contact tracing app, was built in India. So, and then the time required to do that was also very limited. In the month of April, when we started having more cases in India, it was decided to bring together a team of people. In fact, 2nd April it was launched. So March, the work started, and over a period of 3 weeks, a diverse group of stakeholders, professionals from academia, from industry, and government, they got together and they started working on a Bluetooth contact tracing app, which could also track location of users, which would help people to get to know whether somebody who has been detected COVID-19 positive has come in contact with anyone else in the preceding 2 weeks, and that would give a alert to anyone who has come in contact with somebody who is tested COVID positive, a warning well in advance that would help them handle, that would help them take care, take precautions, and ensure that they don't further infect others, and they stay home, and the spread of the virus is prevented. So this was built in a record 15 days, and within 13 days it got to 50 million users, and over the last 7 months now we have got 163 million users who are using across the India. And what we found was that the efficacy of the app was found in the Bluetooth contact, which the app traces. They are able to, the testing efficacy, like those who are identified as Bluetooth contacts of people who tested positive, when we test them, those who have been advised testing, uh, we get testing rates of almost 45% against the overall population testing positive rate of 8%. So this ensures that testing infrastructure can be more optimally utilized. It can be the testing equipment, healthcare professionals can be more optimally utilized, and the testing efficiency goes up. The app also captured location data, which is used at the aggregate level for mapping emerging hotspots and containing the virus. And what it has done is that it calculates COVID hours based on the location data of people who have been who have been traveling. uh, Location data of people who have been traveling at various locations before they are identified as COVID positive. And this location data helps in identifying emerging hotspots. And in areas where this data has been used, it has helped to predict hotspots 10 to 12 days before that area is actually detected as a COVID positive. And locations where this was done effectively, they have been saved, in the sense that these locations people were contained, restricted movement restriction were there, and those areas turned out to be safer than other areas where this was not used. That technology played a key role, but the more important thing was that we have observed in this implementation was that the nature of collaboration, of how we build trust between government, between industry and academia, everyone coming together, building an agile team, and being able to implement the project in a very rapid time frame. So what has also been observed was that another aspect that we found, especially in COVID-19 communications, was that till we get a mask, the only thing that is going to protect us, that's going to ensure that we stay safe, is behavioral change, use of masks, hand washing, social distancing. So these are the communication measures that was required for containing the virus and its impact in a country of our size and magnitude. So right and effective communications became a very important approach in our entire fight against the COVID-19. And MyGov, the citizen platform of Government of India, it launched the COVID-19 communications to support the health ministry. When we began the campaign in the month of February, we realized that there are words that were not part of the lexicon, whether it's quarantine, whether it's social distancing, lockdown. People didn't know what it meant. But now they have become very common terms, but it required communicating effectively, communicating better. Then another aspect that was required in the initial few months was, how do we bust myths? How do we fight fake news? How do we simplify government directions? Because there were multiple directions that were issued with regard to what is allowed during a lockdown period, what is not allowed. So people are not very clear about official documents, which were very often written in the legal language. So MyGov created infographics and helped people understand what we are doing. Then we used videos, we use podcasts, we use community radios, and we use all social media platforms for allowing people to get to know more about the virus, more about the do's and don'ts, more about the precautions that they should take, more about how we should build up the immunity, learn to know what doctors are saying, learn to know what experts are saying, and be better informed. We used all the social media platforms. We built the AI chatbot on WhatsApp, which allowed people to ask questions and get real-time answers. That helped in effective containment of the virus. We built a Telegram news channel, Telegram channel on COVID-19, and that channel has become one of the largest channels on Telegram in India with almost 3 million followers. Similarly, we use the Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Roposo is a short video platform, YouTube, ShareChat. So all these platforms were used to communicate effectively with regard to the COVID-19. Then the challenge that comes is that while innovations are nice, innovations are good, the challenge becomes like how do you sustain innovations? So whether it's for COVID-19, whether it's for Arogya Setu app, we need to ensure that whatever innovations are done are sustainable. And it should not be for headline management that something has been done and we have achieved these results and we kind of advertise it, claim credit. That should not be the objective. It should be done in such a sense that even after the champion who is driving the innovation goes, the innovation remains. It requires effort, it requires consultations, it requires brainstorming, it requires the actual ground level staff evaluating options and then deciding. Another example that I would give about a project which I was associated with in the Food Corporation of India, which does massive food grain procurements of more than $40 billion in a year. The depot online, it works through a network of godowns which store food grains. It buys food grains from farmers, it procures it, it stores it, and it transfers it to all over the country for distribution under the public distribution system. So all this system was manual, and we decided to make it online, make it electronic. But when we're doing that, we realized that the processes that were followed in manual mode across different depots and across different parts of the country were different. But when you're going digital, you need to standardize the processes. So how do we do that? So we decided to have brainstorming sessions with the actual stakeholders, and more than 45,000 of them who will be actually who required to implement the project, the grassroots. So we used technology tools. We broke silos. We kind of created a flat platform using Facebook groups and using WhatsApp groups in which everybody could give their suggestions right from the last person in the depot to the top management. And that helped in effective communications and sharing of ideas. And sometimes the best of the innovations came from people who were the down below, who were actually implementing the projects. So that really helps in a direct connect with the stakeholders, really helps in building solutions which can be scaled up, which can be used, which can be implemented faster and better. So the common service centers, that the telecenters project that India implemented, and now we have a network of more than 400,000 such telecenters across the country who are offering digital services, breaking the digital divide, making people access services at the last mile. That was also like when it was implemented in 2010, there were a lot of naysayers at that time because the number of e-services was limited. But over a period of time, these centers have become more sustainable. And the model that was pushed at that point of time was a service procurement model on a public-private partnership mode. And this is also like sustained because as SPV was built up, it was given a kind of a corporate kind of structure, and the village level entrepreneurs who were running it across the length and breadth of India were made real stakeholders for ensuring that the innovation was actually sustained. So the question comes to that is that how do we nurture innovations and how do we nurture networks for ensuring that innovations don't die with the champion who is moving that? We need to take a few steps, and some of that I would like to share today. Is that what is needed is that we document the best practices, we share across. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Find out what has been done. Some Brazil has done something very good in healthcare, or some other country has done something good in providing last mile service delivery, or something do good to improve the broadband connectivity at the last mile. So those examples which are within our country, across anywhere else, if we are able to find out and learn about it and use it, and similarly whatever we are doing, very important, document them so that it's shared with others and more people use it. So that helps in ensuring that the more people use, the more the innovation will be sustained and retained. Then the teams have to be credited behind. It's not, whenever we talk of an innovation, it's not only the leader. We have to ensure that a whole team that is working on that is promoted. The unsung heroes are given the due credit, and the leader only provides the direction and support. That's very important for any innovation to be sustained. Then what I always call it is that a network of civil servants, especially there are a lot of people who would find who want to do good, who want to like find partners who can help them do good, learn about good practices. So what I call it as a nexus of the good that helps in building a network, that helps in learning from each other, ensuring that innovations remain and are strengthened further. Build partnerships. Building partnerships is very important with the civil society, with non-profits, with multilateral agencies, learning from each other, learning from different countries, learning from good examples like this forum that is there. I'm sure there will be many examples, many case studies here of people who have done great work in their own countries. If we can learn from them and we can adopt, we can customize and adapt it in our own in our own workplaces, in whichever forms required, it will really help in building sustainable innovations. Alum groups have been very effective, whether it's my engineering college alum group or public policy Harvard alum group. It gives you a lot of advice, unbiased advice that you get, and it's very useful to connect with them, get to know what are the best practices and what is it that one needs to do better. So that really helps in sustaining innovations. Then there are innovation circles around the world, whether it's the World Bank or with the United Nations. There are multiple bodies, multiple circles, innovation circles. There are people who are trying to solve the same problems. Like when we are looking at the vaccine for the COVID-19, there are several initiatives that were going on across the world. How do we learn from each other? How do we get into them? How do we build a network so that which helps us in learning? How do we collaborate with people across? That really helps in improving things and designing solutions that can solve societal problems. And we find that very often it's not that different countries face different problems. Most nations are facing the same problem. Can we not just do control C, control V and ensure that we are able to quickly move faster, better, and ensure a better outcome for our citizens and our people? So that's very critical in any approach that we do. Learn, practice, implement is something that I follow personally, and I ensure that my team follows. Document and share in order to ensure that whatever we are doing is documented well, people get to learn, people get to adapt, and sharing so that the multiplier effect comes in and more people adapt it. So these were the few thoughts that I had that I wanted to share with it, and more of it I would love to look forward in the question and answer sessions. Once again, thank you for giving me this opportunity to be talking to you on this platform, and hope to learn from the other presentations in that time.